it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down.
I just appreciate everybody
Down,
watching.
set,
Man.
watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Dive podcast provided to you by 214 Media. Let's go ahead and get the gang in here right quick. Well, part of the gang. AJ on the way. But I'm your host, Mual, Hand Dog Mual, all that good stuff. We got Dre in here right now. What's going on with you, Dre? How you feeling, big dog?
What's good, man? It's Thursday night, man. We back at it again. Football weekend. Shit, it start the night, man. I already put my bet in. Shit, I'm ready, man.
Should I ask you, or are we? All right, wait. Let me ask you. Are you on the spread or the total?
I'm on the spread tonight. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got the total. So who you got?
I got the Chiefs tonight. Yeah.
All right.
I feel like the public on the Chargers tonight. I'm gonna go the opposite way.
Oh, really? The public on the Chargers?
I feel like they are, because that spread it's not that great of a spread. You know what I mean? Like the Chiefs. If it was like 2, then they probably would have been on the Chiefs. But being as though it's like a 4-point spread, I feel like most people think the Chargers could cover that. So I'm going Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm a little interested in this one because I think week 1 is. Let me be more specific. Week 2 is the hardest for me. It's probably like the hardest week in the NFL because it's so much overcorrections that is just completely unnecessary when you go from week 1 to week 2, and it's hard to navigate through it. And that Chargers team, I thought that they probably would have been. I thought the Chiefs probably would have been the favorite in terms of like the public side. But you have good points. I just think that when you play a team like the Cardinals, bruh, I have no faith in the Cardinals. So it's like putting up 30 against them and blowing them out is not too surprising. That's just how I felt. It's not too surprising. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting. I asked you the spread because I got the total. I'm gonna rock with the over tonight. I know it's a high number, but you don't get those high numbers for no reason. It's like those high numbers are there. So
I'm going with some play around money because I actually had a good week last week. I went 12-4 last week in the pick. So I'm like, all right, go ahead.
And you do money line too, right? In the NFL, that's what you do.
Last week I did all
college
spreads,
too, right?
Yeah, I do. I had a bad week in college last week, but the NFL made up for it. Like I said, I went 12-4. So, I said I got some little play around money for this weekend.
My man put money on every game.
Every game. I was like, I'm having fun this week.
I love it, bro. I should have did that, but I had to. Well, every time I talk about this gambling shit, bro, god damn. I'm just glad I can't. At least I lost. I went down 2 units, but the Seahawks game. No, I went down 3 units, but the Seahawks game saved me. So I ended up only losing $40 over week 1. It's crazy though, because I went 5-3. So I think I lost two bets where I had some different type of units on it. So I guess it is what it is, man. But congrats to you. It's good though, because today I really am just excited from a general game standpoint. So I can't wait to see how these boys.
Same.
Yeah. So on the agenda today, you know what time it is, everybody. We are previewing the Commanders and the Lions. And then we also have Malcolm Hart joining us, who should be joining us pretty shortly. He's joining the show today. He is the co-host of the Pride podcast over there on, I believe it is Blue Wire Podcast Network. So yeah, we're going to talk to Malcolm. And matter of fact, Malcolm just joined right now, so we can go ahead and add him in and get our take or get some insight on these boys from Detroit. Let me go ahead and add him in right quick. There you go, the big dog right now. What's going on, Malcolm? How you feeling, bro?
What's good, man? What's up, man? What's happening? What's up, man?
All right.
How y'all boys doing, man?
Great, man.
Ain't much, man. We doing all right. We were just over here talking about our week, how we fared in the gambling world in week 1, bro. My boy Dre had himself a good little Sunday.
Yeah. Just hoping it don't even out this weekend.
Nah, no bull. You dabble in the gambling a little bit, Malcolm?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm about to say, I guess that's part of the world these days, bro. So I guess it is what it is.
Is it
Okay,
legal?
so let's
Are
go
you
ahead.
in Michigan? Is Malcolm in Michigan?
I actually live in Miami, man.
Oh, okay. How, is
Yeah.
it legal down there? Do y'all have legalized sports gambling there?
Nah, man. I gotta use
Oh,
all
okay.
these. I gotta use all these secondary apps
Oh,
and
the offshore.
like
You
bet
got the offshore
online
thing.
and
Yeah, I'm about to
yeah,
say,
man.
I'm still offshore. I ain't fucking with no.
Yeah,
It's
man.
hard for me to casino. So.
I gotta get paid on crypto and then convert it to US dollars, and it's a headache. But as long as I get
Same
paid,
way.
man, I'm good, man.
I think that there's always pros and cons though too, because like casino wave, you gotta get up, make the drive, place your bets at a certain week. You gotta hope if you go on Sunday that you go at a certain time. Offshore, wake up. You know what I'm saying? You can wake up at 12:50, put your bets in. You know what I'm saying? You be good. So there's some pros and cons to it. All right. So Malcolm, talk to us. I guess I'll start things off with a more macro thing, man. Is this week against the Washington Commanders for Detroit? Is this viewed as a must-win situation? What's the vibe for the Detroit Lions and the fans about how they're faring against the Week 2 matchup with the Commanders?
Man, you know what? You just jumped right into it. So yeah, man. To be honest with you, I know it's early in the week. It's week 2, still early in the season. But man, I just feel like Detroit, they can't lose their first 2 home games starting the season. And if they lose these first 2 home games, it's gonna be a state of panic in Detroit, man. Ain't gonna be too good right now. We lose these first 2 home games.
Absolutely. So obviously, week 1, when you talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, they are viewed as, I mean, personally, I know that they're legitimate NFC threats, but I can't see them going too far with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. But nonetheless, in terms of the regular season, at the very least, they are legitimate contenders. They're a serious NFC team. So week 1, when you go against a team like that and you have your issues defensively, it's kind of hard to waver through what's real and what's not. I guess from a actual team standpoint, offense and defense, what is the truth and what is the good and what is the bad with the Detroit Lions? What worked well and what didn't?
I mean, if you look at last week's tape, man, we couldn't stop Jalen Hurts if our life depended on it, man. It's like every time we put pressure on him, he would escape the pocket and he would make a big play. So it looked like that we have trouble with mobile quarterbacks. That looks like that's just a trouble in Detroit right now. As far as defensively, they have trouble with mobile quarterbacks. Now, I know this week we're playing against a quarterback who's maybe not as mobile. So I want to see how Detroit Lion does, man, because it looked like we got a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts. But he was just able to escape the pressure with his legs, man. So this is gonna be a good test. This is gonna be a good test because you guys did really well last week against a really good front as well. So I want to see how we do against you guys.
Malcolm, I want to jump in and just ask you real quickly. What's the temperature check for the Lions as far as Dan Campbell, the coach? I mean, we from the outside looking in, I feel like he's kind of like the media darling. Like the media loves him. He's like that tough, raw guy. But as a Detroit fan, can you speak to what you all as fans like? Are you optimistic with him leading the charge? Like, do you think he can get you all to where you want to be?
You know what? To answer your question, I love Dan Campbell, man, and a lot of the fans of Detroit love Dan Campbell as well. Now, when Dan Campbell first came in, he wasn't that lovable guy, man. People were making fun of him. They were talking shit about him. It was more like, oh, who is this guy? This guy's talking about biting kneecaps. Like, does he know about football? Does he just want to bite kneecaps? Like, what? Who is Dan Campbell? It wasn't until last year, I guess the media took notice on how close Detroit played those games. We played all our games really close, man. It looked like they gave the team, they gave it like 110% every single game. Even the games that we lost by like 6 points, 3 points. I think they said that we lost, I think 10 games by one point, by one possession, by one score, or like one score games. So I guess the media took notice on that, and they see how hard this team is fighting. And then the whole Hard Knocks thing added on to it. So I think, seeing Dan Campbell, the media, they are starting to like Dan Campbell, which is something new in Detroit because usually we don't get no love, man.
Right.
Yeah. So when you think about kind of how, I mean, you talked about the defense, you said the pressure, you felt that you all were getting pressure, but Jalen Hurts, his legs was able to save the Philadelphia offense and save some drives as well. I think what really was fascinating was the 3rd and 15, I think, on his first drive, using his legs the way he did. But when you talk about the pass rush altogether, what do you think? What do you take away from it? Is Aiden Hutchinson? It's one game, but has he looked the part in that first game? And is this something where you think that he can be like the X factor against Washington this week?
I mean, if you look at the stats from last week, you're like, yeah, he was just an average guy. If you look at his stats, because he didn't do much. I mean, he had one tackle. That was it, one tackle. But if you watch the tape, man, he was there. He put up, like, I believe he put up 3 pressures on Jalen Hurts. He almost got to him one time, but Jalen Hurts was able to escape. So he's doing everything that they wanted him to do. And I think that this week with a less mobile quarterback, we'll be able to see, we'll have a better idea of, what is Aiden Hutchinson able to bring.
Offensively, I asked this question earlier this week, but I definitely want to get multiple opinions on this one. When I think of Jared Goff,
oh God.
Yep. When I think of Jared Goff, and I'm not saying this is the exact same situation, but this thought just continues to creep into my head. He was a rookie, and obviously I think St. Louis before they went to LA, or maybe he was the rookie in LA. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But that first year under Jeff Fisher, terrible. And I thought off rip he was a bust. I didn't think, I had no faith in him, nothing like that. But Sean McVay revived his career. He had some semblances of competency. He looked like a really good quarterback year 2 up until the year that he got cut. But ultimately, he's facing his second year in a new situation again. The first year where he didn't really look the part. In second year, I don't know exactly where Jared Goff lies. Again, I'm not making a comparison, but I am saying, is this somebody where, while you're not viewing him as a franchise quarterback, the confidence level is somewhat up there with him? Now, I heard your reaction, so maybe your confidence level ain't up there.
I mean, it's really tough with Jared Goff, man, because this is a prove-it year for him. This is a year, because you look at that last year was more like, all right, come in Detroit. We don't have weapons. Like they knew they didn't have any weapons. So if you look at the first half of the season, it was a disaster. The first, I'll say it's like 75%. The first 75% of the season was a disaster. So it didn't get better until they fired the offensive coordinator. They had Dan Campbell calling plays at one point, and then they had their tight end coach, his name is Ben Johnson, who's our current offense coordinator now. They had him help out with the play calling in the offense. So you started noticing a better Jared Goff towards the last 6 games last year. And that's when we were like, okay, maybe he could be better than we thought he was. Because and in the last 6 games, I mean, his numbers were comparable to when he was with Sean McVay and the Rams when they were good. So coming to this year, we're hoping that, a full year with Ben Johnson as the play caller, that he will be a lot better. Now, the last week didn't really go that well for Jared Goff. He played really average. I mean, he didn't do anything flashy, but a lot of it goes to our offensive line right now, because right now we're kind of banged up. Even this week, like if you look at the injury report right now, it's not looking too good. Half our offensive line's on the injury report right now. They didn't practice yesterday or today. So us as Lions fans, we're freaking out right now. We were wondering right now if our offensive line's gonna be there. Shit, I'm wondering if I need to put some pads on and maybe play guard for.
Hey, I'll go out there until they pay me. Hey, come on, talk to me. But
your
so
OL's
what
going to
about
be a strength, though, right? Like the OL. I mean, initially going into the season, from what I heard about Detroit, is that the OL was supposed to be a big strength for this team.
That was supposed to be our strength, man. Exactly, man. We have a lot of, they invested a lot of first round picks into that offensive line. You got Penei Sewell, who they drafted a couple years ago, Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker, Jordan Jackson.
Dre, you still there?
You guys?
I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, now we got you. We got you.
Okay, yeah. So Jordan Jackson, who went to the Pro Bowl last year, so they invested a lot into the offensive line. So there's a big strength, but now it seems like, for some reason, man, I don't know what the hell's going on, but they all have back injuries. It's like back. You look at the injury report, like back. Like, what the hell is going on with their backs? So it's tough, man.
But yeah, but outside of that,
you got it, Dre. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, outside of the offensive line, I mean, I understand that's a big concern. But after week 1 right now, what would you say as a Lions fan kind of concerns you, in a sense, like that you noticed week 1 that maybe something hasn't changed from last year, or maybe it's a new concern for you? What is your concern headed into week 2 about the Lions?
All these damn injuries, man. I tell you, this offensive line is supposed to be our strength, man. So if our offensive line is hurt and we're plugging in guys who are not our starters into this offensive line, it makes Jared Goff looks bad. It makes Jared Goff look bad. Like if you look at every single throw that Jared Goff threw last week, and every single bad throw he threw is because of pressure around his face. The pressure gets in his face, he throws his hot route, and that's when things go bad. They look at the interception he threw. the pressure.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. Was that on TJ? What did they discuss it? Because he looked like TJ was doing more so of a double move and breaking back inside, and Jared Goff is thinking that he's breaking it outside. Like, did they talk about what happened?
What happened was that our guard who was subbing in for our starter. His name is Logan Stumberg. So he's our backup. So he got blown up by Fletcher Cox. He got blown up, like completely destroyed in that play. And the pressure just got to Jared Goff really, really, really quick. That he tried to throw his hot route to TJ Hawkinson. Now, TJ Hawkinson was supposed to run an out route. TJ Hawkinson ran out and up. Ball got picked. So just stuff like that where when Jared Goff gets pressured, the timing gets off. And he's more likely to make mistakes. So the offensive line is not there, man. I'm scared.
So I think one thing that should ease your nervousness is your boy Deandre Swift.
Woo!
The ultimate, I view him as the ultimate chess piece for Detroit, especially for their offense. I'll give the floor to you to talk about Deandre Swift and just how effective he is in this offense for you all.
Man, I love Deandre Swift, man. I mean, even when we drafted him, and there was a lot of fans, Lions fans that didn't want him when they drafted him. It was like, why are you drafting Deandre Swift? I was a big fan of Deandre Swift even when he was in Georgia, man. So when we got him, I was excited. And the thing is with him, though, man, is keeping him fresh, keeping him healthy. Like you see last week, they gave him 15 carries, and he went off for 144 yards on those 15 carries. Now, you're not going to see him get that high workload. You're not going to see him get 20, 30, 25, 30 carries because they want to keep him fresh. They don't want him to get hurt, man, because for some reason, like his career so far, he gets nicked up. Like even right now, he's on the injury report. His ankle's hurting. But he says he's going to play. We do have faith in him that he's going to play. But it's the thing keeping him fresh, man, because like he gets nicked up and banged up too quickly.
Now, how do you kind of view, because we talked about the defense, but from an overall standpoint, we talked about Goff and Swift, but how do you view this offense? How is everybody meshing well from a collective standpoint? Obviously, when you go down, what was it 3 possessions at one point? I know definitely 2, but when you go down as much as you did, and obviously some mistakes were made, do you think that this is a really good offense in Detroit, or is there still some growing that needs to be done?
I mean, the way I look at our offense right now is we put up 35 points last week against a solid defense. I think the Philadelphia Eagles this year, I think they're solid, and a lot of people have high expectations for them. So I think for us to put up 35 points, and I don't feel like we played our best football. And we got some guys who's hurt. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knows about Jameson Williams, who we're just waiting to get him back. I think once he gets back, I think the offense, once he gets back rolling, man, I think our offense is going to be up to another level, man. Because you're going to have a lot of people that can stretch the field. You're going to have DJ Shark that can stretch the field. You're going to have J-Mo on the other side that can stretch the field. And then you're going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown working in the middle with TJ Hawkinson. So, I mean, we're looking at it on paper. Then you have Swift back there, man. On paper, you look at it, you're like, man, how the hell is people going to try to stop these guys? So I just can't wait till the whole offense is healthy. To be honest with you, man.
Now, I think it's just interesting seeing the perspectives from like Detroit and Washington. Like I said, I had some conversations earlier this week, and I think the conversations that I had earlier is, they view, Detroit taking advantage of this opportunity, being a home favorite. They're going to beat Washington and things like that. And I think one of the things that we not understanding is probably like, what are some mismatches on the offensive side of the football that you think can work well for Detroit? We kind of talked about the defensive side, but what about the mismatches or even some strengths of Detroit that probably can work into their advantage on the offensive side?
I think it's Deandre Swift, man. I think we talked about him earlier. I think whatever they want to do with him, because like if you look at last week with you guys, when you guys played Jacksonville, you guys gave up almost 7 yards per carry to their running backs, and those running backs are dogs, man. Robinson, they're dogs. I just have a feeling that if our offensive line is healthy and they're able to do what they did last week, as far as they completely dominated the trenches, man, against Philadelphia. So if they're able to do that again, they could get Swift rolling again on the ground. And if they want to get him involved in the passing game as well, I think they could take advantage of your linebackers with Deandre Swift, or they want to try to get a mismatch with TJ Hawkinson with your linebackers as well. I think that'll be our strength right there. And then also Amon-Ra St. Brown. I like his matchup in the slot.
Yeah, I Washington's going to have some. I think so. Amon-Ra, I know he played primarily in the slot, but he did line up out wide on some occasion. But I think that from a receiving standpoint, you mentioned DJ Chark as well earlier, but Amon-Ra is probably the more, I would say he's probably like the more shiftier of everybody, and DJ is probably like the straight line speed guy. If I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, man, Amon-Ra St. Brown reminds me, and we had him in our team for a while. Golden Tate, man, he's like the mirror version of Golden Tate.
Okay. All right, so. You talked about some of the injuries. Is there people that's looking doubtful, or everybody to this point questionable for Detroit? Obviously, Swift is probably expecting to play. He said he was going to play, but what about everybody else?
Yeah, man. I really, because it's Thursday. Usually we have a better idea on Friday who's going to be doubtful and who's going to be questionable and stuff like that. But I can tell you now, our offensive line didn't practice pretty much. Our guard Jonah Jackson. He didn't practice today. Frank Ragnar, our center, he didn't practice yesterday or today. That's not good. And then Deandre Swift didn't practice. But everybody else looked like they're on track to play. But it's the concerning part is you have your starting center and your starting guard that didn't practice. And so now you're thinking about your whole interior, maybe backups, if they don't play, which is not good. Because you Washington fronts, he got some beasts up front, man. And if we don't have our guys, man, I'm worried.
Say that rookie center had himself a long day in Jacksonville this past Sunday. So
yeah,
God bless, God bless. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna give you the floor on this one, and Malcolm, I appreciate you joining me, big dog, and joining us, the Trap or Die podcast. Who wins and why?
Okay, now. Shout out to Washington. Don't hate me, guys.
Say what you got. Hey, say what you got to say. Look,
I came on here late, but I'm curious as hell how you became a Detroit Lions fan.
Did you hear? I live in Miami, right? I live in Florida, right? So you probably
even more curious.
I just came on, so the fact that you're now adding to the fact that
I'm Lions fan by choice. By choice. This is crazy. Everybody's like, what the
Was it Barry Sanders? That's the only thing I can come up with.
The Lions fan by choice.
Or Megatron. I don't know.
Yeah, Barry O'Calvin.
It ain't Roy Williams.
You can be tapping those players, but damn, the whole team.
Damn, that's wild. The whole team. That's wild. That's a lot of heartaches. I went through the whole 0-16 season. I went through it all, man. The early 2000s where it was his ass with Matt Millen.
Barry.
You probably just got a thing for underdogs.
Oh, man. No. All jokes aside, it was Barry. Barry was my favorite player growing up, and I just stuck with him.
But the worst part is, every Thanksgiving during a good, nice meal that you have to watch your shitty ass team play and lose.
They give us like the worst matchups, man. Like they do it on purpose.
Always.
Like this year, you know who we played this year? We played the goddamn Bills. They do it to us on purpose. They do it to us on purpose.
Y'all up. Y'all supposed to be the feast.
They set us up. Well, come on. Why them? Why them? All the teams.
Well, a couple years ago,
y'all should be playing the Bears on Thanksgiving. Like that's a great matchup, I think.
Yeah, there we go. There we go, man. Okay, so I'm a Lions fan by choice. Because of Barry. So the reason why I'm going this route, and I'm gonna just say it now, I think Detroit need this more. Now you guys are 1-0. Detroit right now they can't. They cannot go 0-2. And the thing is that we've seen this story so many times where Detroit will play a good team, they'll play them hard, and they play them to the last drive, the last quarter, and the last second, and then they'll follow up with a shitty performance. Where a game that people see as a winnable game. Vegas has us favorite in this game. We haven't been favorite since 2018. This is crazy. So this is a game where they just have to. They have to win. So I'm actually going the Lions. I'm gonna go just say 31-24 Lions.
Another 30 burger, y'all.
31 points
Hey,
from the
last week we had a
Lions.
Jazz
We put
guy
up- we
come
put up
on, 30.
30
We about to get.
They scored 35 last
We
time.
put up 35 last week, man. So let's
Oh
go.
no, it ain't on the Lions. It's more so like the predictions. Last week somebody said they was gonna put up. I think it was 31-23 Jacksonville. So I was like, damn, I don't know how the hell we can keep putting these 30 burgers up on us, bro. It's ridiculous.
I'm not gonna lie. I watched the game back yesterday. Man, that was a rough game to watch, man. Like from both teams, it's like so many mistakes were happening. Like
What, the
nobody
Lions and
played.
Eagles?
Yeah, it was just a rough game for me to watch. Like it was a lot of mistakes happening on both sides.
I mean, that's probably the perspective of an outsider. I thought it was an enjoyable game. I thought it got, especially when we started coming back towards the end. I thought it was like, you know what, we lost, but we kept it close.
I can see that if I'm a Lions fan.
Fair enough, Malcolm. I want to give you the floor now. Plug Talk. Appreciate you joining us, big dog, and spending some time with the Trapper Dad, man. Let everybody know where they can find you and hear from you.
All right, so yeah, man. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm not sure if y'all can see it, but I have my Twitter thing there. It's Mr. Hart ____, and it's HART. You want to follow my podcast, man? Just listening to some Detroit news, if especially this week with everything going on with the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions, man. You can follow us and check out our podcast. My podcast is at the Pride Podcast. It's actually just Pride Podcast if you want to follow us on Twitter. And yeah, man, that's me.
Absolutely, big dog. Now, enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. All that good stuff, man. I know you in sunny Florida.
Yes,
there's
sir.
a ton of things to do out there. I'm a little jealous, man. I love me a little South Beach. Look, you in the sweet spot. Just the gas is expensive as hell.
Yeah,
That's
right
it.
now it is, man. Shit.
God, but yeah, go ahead, man. I appreciate you joining us, man. Enjoy the game tonight too, by the way, man. Stay
All
safe.
right, man. We'll do, man. Have a great one. Thanks.
All right, take care, bro.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Yes, sir. Here we
Hey,
go,
Mo,
man.
Mo, are we live? Because I don't see no comments. What the folks said tonight, man?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I think everybody was just
Hey.
like we live. You know what I'm saying? But I guess everybody quiet today.
Let me go ahead and
What
retweet
it
this
is.
again because I know we missing Hawk and all the folks, man. All the usuals. You know what I'm saying? Hey.
If you are new to the Trapper Dive Podcast, Trapper Dive YouTube channel, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. All that good stuff, man. As we turn to Washington and focus on Washington. Second straight week. I don't know. Let's see if we can get a trend. As long as we got the opposing teams and opposing reporters or fans, whoever is coming in to talk about the previewing the matchup, let's just hope, that the more they predict the other team to win, that Washington stays undefeated. I know AJ would like that. I know Dre, you know what I'm saying, you would like that as well. Just like I will as well too. So
But we've been actually running into two confident fan bases because their teams are supposedly on the come up. So it makes sense that they would be confident that their teams will come in and win. So I get it.
yeah. So let me ask you all though, because I asked Malcolm, but I think it applies to us too. Like, how important is it for Washington to get off to a 2-0 start? Where do you all lie on that side? Is this must-win game? I'll leave it there and see what you're.
Well, the funny thing is, it's actually not that important right now to be 2-0, but I think it would be great for us to be 2-0. I mean, just because you got that one win, and plus, like we had talked about earlier in the week, I don't think Dallas looks as strong as they did at one point. So, I mean, technically, it's not like one of those. We're not going into this week as a must-win game. I felt like the Jacksonville game was more important from that standpoint because, it's a new era. You had a new rebrand, and you didn't want to start the season off 0-1 and then possibly be facing the looming Detroit Lions, who you may go 0-2 against. So you got the monkey off your back with the Jacksonville win, which makes this game a little bit less stressful in terms of we have to win. But I do think it is, if we're talking about changing the corner as this Washington franchise, you should beat a team like Detroit Lions. I mean, just, historically and just, what they have been as a franchise. I mean, we haven't been good at all the last 30 years ourselves, but, this is one of those teams you want to beat. Like, you don't want to lose to the Detroit Lions. I mean, ever. Like, I mean, that's usually my thing. Like, I'm always disappointed when we lose to the Detroit Lions, but I mean, it would be just great to start off 2-0 just from the standpoint that we, on the other hand, like I said, Dallas, is looking weak, and then you got Philly coming in next week. So it will be great to go into that Philadelphia game 2-0. I mean, so it is important, from that standpoint, because if you do lose this game, yeah, you could go 1-2. But then again, you have Dallas coming in that next week, who is in a flux with the quarterback situation, the rest of the team, so you may be able to bounce back on track. So that's why I say it's not as important or a must win as it was last week. But I do think, as a team, you want to definitely start off 2-0. So they should come out firing in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think for week 2, you got to hope that you can go 2-0. This team needs as much momentum as it can possibly get. It's very rare that they, started season off to be undefeated in the first place. But, getting the ability on their schedule to have, the teams that drafted number 1 and number 2 overall this year to begin your season and heading into a division match with the Philadelphia Eagles week 3, 2-0 sounds lovely. As you can see, what the victory against even just Jacksonville, it doesn't matter the opponent, what it does to the fans, what it does to the camaraderie amongst the roster itself, and even the coaches. They're more upbeat. The players are more upbeat. They feel progressive. They feel that they're heading in the right step. So the last thing you want to do is possibly have a loss, and more than likely, if they do lose, it'll be a combination of poor play from the quarterback and also the defense. And as we know, as fans of this team, that's the last thing you want to start brewing here with the fan base and also the media is poor play from your quarterback. I mean, the defense, I think a lot of the fans already expect the defense to be below average anyways. But, Carson did throw 2 picks last week. He didn't get a lot of heat for it or get thrown under the bus by his coaching staff, unlike Jamin Davis for his poor coverage. I'll just throw a little shade out there. But he didn't get any heat for that. But if they had lost, he definitely would have, got a lot of heat for that. So I think it's important for them to start off 2-0 and take that momentum going against Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and the crew next week.
I think this is one of these instances where it's if you lose, it depends on how you lose. Like if you think about the 2020 season, there's always a few. Let me actually pull up the schedule so I can kind of go off the strength of facts. But for sure, the 2020 season, you beat the Philadelphia Eagles. You think you have a good opportunity to really go into Arizona and compete and have a shot to win. And ultimately, the way the game goes out, you really don't have it. You're playing catch up from the beginning, essentially. So you're down immediately. You're trying to find a way to catch up. And ultimately, you lose that game. You go 1-1, right? Another game or another season that I can think of is the 2018 season, with Alex Smith at quarterback. You go into Arizona that time and you dominate. And then you come back in week 1 and you ultimately get smacked by the Indianapolis Colts. Like you couldn't do anything offensively against these guys. And then so on and so forth. Like you have other opportunities down the line. I think 2017 was the inverse. You started off 0-1, but after your 2016 season, you didn't want to see something like that. Point being, in the early portions of the season, when you have these opportunities to go 2-0, Washington doesn't really seize them. But also, when you lose, you're not losing. It's not a good loss. Like, if that makes sense. We all know that losing isn't good, but there's ways in which you can kind of tame your fan base and you can tame the people around you and understand this was a tough game. We went back and forth. They got the better of us type of thing. And not, this was a tough game. We got smoked. And now we're reeling heading into the Philadelphia Eagles game. So I'm in the notion of, I don't think that it's an important game to go 1-1. I think that you really have to manage like what's the right word to say it?
Well, Mual, let me ask you this real quick. I know I'm cutting you off, but how can we not say that this game against the Detroit Lions isn't important when you're in year 3 of Coach Rivera building out this team? He's had all controls of everything, and if you can't beat the Detroit Lions, we got an issue. No matter how physical they playing.
If I said it isn't important, that's a mistake. I'm saying it isn't a must win. So if I said it isn't important, then I'm gonna make the mulligan and ask for the do over right now it's not a must win. So that's kind of what I meant if I said isn't important, because that was kind of how I was phrasing it. But I'll get to your question. I just think that when you're talking about a 2-0 start, that is obviously what's best for your team. You want to keep winning. I think from the grand scheme of things, there's still 15 more games left, and when people overreact to the week ones, that gets dangerous. Like the responses that you like, everybody's on Twitter between the three of us. You're kind of seeing people from now like jumping to conclusions in a sense of what Washington can be. And the truth be told, the more you think about it, the Jacksonville Jaguars wasn't that good of a team, and we kind of knew that after the fact. Like the fact that you forced 3 turnovers, you took a late lead, you went up 8 points, and you still lost. That kind of identifies and highlights the type of team that you were in years past as well, finding ways to lose. But to answer your question, AJ, now, perspective and perception is everything, and I think winning in Detroit would be huge for the franchise. I think winning in Detroit would even increase the presence at FedEx Field on week 3. I truly think that. And now it's usually always like a 50-50 split, if not more, Philly fans and Washington fans in recent years at FedEx Field. But ultimately, what you're doing for your team and your fan base by winning is increasing the likelihood that people are going to have that FOMO. Like they have to be at FedEx Field from a fan base standpoint. So like the vision, the perception is always everything. It's important for Washington to get off to 2-0 start. Like that is important. But is it a must win? I still say no. I don't think it's a must win, but it also depends on how you lose. The perception. Like if you lose in a terrible way after you done beat a bad Jacksonville team, or was perceived as a bad Jacksonville team in week 1, and then you have a bad loss in Detroit. Now everything that you didn't work yourself up for leading to the week 2, you don't even know who the hell you are, and you got a Philadelphia team that's perceived or looked at as NFC contenders heading into week 3.
Yeah, and that's Jamal. Just to elaborate more on my stance, I agree with you in the sense that it's not a must win because you're not out of any playoff contention. And that's the thing. When you start 0-2, it's like history shows that usually teams that start 0-2 don't go to the playoffs. Like, I mean, it's an uphill battle from there, and you know it's a fight that you don't want to have. That's why I say the Jacksonville game was way more important in terms of getting off to a good start with the rebrand. But I don't want to minimize the importance of the Detroit game coming up, and a lot of that is because right now this fan base or not even just the fan base, but the team in general just can't afford any bad publicity. Usually, you know, losses in this town is just amplified. You know, especially with Ron Rivera right now, and you know a lot of the fan base has been looking at him sideways for a lot of the personnel decisions he's made over the couple of years. So I just feel like winning does benefit him. You know, in particular, he feels like it's a must win. I don't know if he feels that way, but you know it does feel like the pressure is against them to perform and to produce and give us some results. So I mean, from that standpoint, you can look at it and say, yes, this game is really important. But in the terms of must win, I just don't think it's, you know, you're talking about the playoffs. It doesn't put you out of playoff position. It's not going to put you out of the NFC East race right now, especially because you haven't played a division game yet. I mean, you have the division games coming up. But, you know, it's like I said, I don't want to minimize the importance because going 2-0 would be big and it would be major right now. And it would start to turn some heads of the people that's been kind of skeptical of Ron and his staff going into this week.
Now, speaking of staff members, AJ hinted to it. Jamin Davis was called out by Jack Del Rio, and I shouldn't even use that word in a sense because he was asked a question, I believe, and I wish I had the transcripts. I didn't have time to look at them. I've been on the move, pretty busy today, so I don't know the full context of what was asked from Jack Del Rio, but clearly the conversation was on Jamin. Ultimately, Jack Del Rio essentially said he was a little disappointed in that Jamin Davis didn't play as good as he anticipated. Essentially, you know, he had a lot of good offseason training practices and obviously looked good before the regular season, leading up into the regular season, so he was a little surprised that he didn't play better and things like that. Conversation stemmed. I mean, that was a conversation, but it also, and C Money, my bad, what's going on? Appreciate you checking in. said Wentz is going to eat against those corners. I think to the point of Jamin Davis, they said that there was a conversation had between Jack Del Rio and Jamin Davis prior to those comments. So presumably prior to those comments, I would imagine that happened. So what do y'all think about that storyline? Not gonna say it's an issue or a problem, but what do you all think about that storyline in that Jamin Davis was called out by Del Rio in the presser, at least?
I want AJ to take the first stab at this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was bullshit. Like, in my opinion, it's like all offseason we've heard them, compliment Carson Wentz, who has a lot of issues with his game. Also made some mistakes in last week's game that could have, ended up having them lose a game. And they're protecting him so much, but yet you're not going to protect your second-year player, your first-round pick, especially to the media. Like, whatever you do behind the scenes is cool. You feel me? That interaction. But, like, you're also at fault for putting him in those positions to not look good. You're also at fault for drafting him as high as you did and putting him in the position his rookie year to be out of position where it doesn't match his strengths. And then come this year, you're forcing the issue again, telling us that you found your middle linebackers or your linebackers overall. And then in week 1, we don't see Jamin really make any impact on the game and look proficient. And after the game leading into week 2, you throw your man under the bus on Thursday, a couple days before Sunday's game. Someone that's already trying to adapt to, their role within the team and the league and just playing more football. It's just not a good look, in my opinion. And honestly, Jamin could be better. At the same token, he may just be who he is. But Del Rio also has to take a lot of blame for that because he put him in those positions. He's only doing his job. You feel me? And if you know this guy from seeing him in the offseason program and training camp, what what he's good at pros and cons wise, and you're just emphasizing and putting him in more positions to, get beat up on the field in live reps against competition that matters, you got to take more of that blame. You can't be throwing him under the bus. Like, there's no way Jamin Davis should be out there covering Chris and Kirk on a regular basis, or even Travis Etienne. Like, there's a couple plays that they missed down the field with Etienne. There's a couple plays that they got accomplished, and there's also a play maybe Chris and Kirk should have scored on if he didn't slightly step out of bounds. It's like, man, Jack, you got to take the blame for that more so than trying to throw him under the bus.
Yeah, I actually have a different take on that. I think this is, I know we have our opinions about Jack Del Rio. I certainly have mine. I'm not a huge fan of the guy, but at the same time, this has been going on forever. As far as, I don't necessarily view it as him throwing Jamin under the bus. I just view it as a coach challenging his player. And this is, like I said, this has been going on since the dawn of time. Coaches challenge players, and you hope to get the best out of them. They coddled Jamin year 1. There was a lot of coddling going on with Jamin. Like, I remember the answers and pressers, they tried to protect him. Like, they, especially when you weren't hearing a lot of why he wasn't making an impact, coaches were protecting Jamin. But Jamin's not a rookie anymore. Jamin has been in the league a year now. So, we can sit up here and say what Jamin is or isn't, or whether he was a bust or not. But the fact of the matter is, at this point, the coaches they have an expectation of Jamin. They have an expectation that, you're growing. You're supposed to be growing in this league. Like, last year, we protected you because you were raw, you were a rookie. But now year 2, we're expecting a little bit more of you. And we want to challenge you to be the player that we think you are. And this is the coaches and the staff, everyone involved with drafting Jamin, putting Jamin out in the field, they believe in Jamin, obviously, because they drafted him with a first round pick. So now they want to start seeing results of production. Yes, you can say coaches can do a better job of putting them in position. And I do agree that, you know, there's certain instances where they can put Jamin in better positions to succeed. But at the same time, Jamin is kind of struggling with the basic stuff too. I mean, you kind of expect a guy with his speed and his ability to be able to kind of hold leverage in some of these zone situations that they put him in. But he's just not seeing, he just still seems like he's not really playing instinctively. And that's kind of the issue. Like, you see the talent, like the guy has raw talent. We know that. But where he's not turning raw talent into production, and it has to be frustrating and disappointing as coaches. You know, I watch Last Chance U, and Last Chance U is one of my favorite shows on Netflix, and I watch these coaches. Yeah. I mean, it's such a great show. I mean, these coaches, they just show you, and you see a lot of these guys at these junior colleges. They have so much talent and so much ability, but a lot of them, they can't either be coached or just something they're just not getting to get themselves over the hump. So sometimes it's difficult for a coach, and they have to pull, you know, they have to be a certain way with these guys. Like, you know, I know you mentioned Carson Wentz and how, you know, no one threw him under the bus, but you've kind of seen how Carson responds, you know, to certain ways. And that's one of the things about being a coach or being a leader, is that everybody can't be coached the same. Like, some people, you have to treat them differently. Some people, they don't respond to certain styles or whatever. And we've seen that with Carson. With Jamin, we don't know what kind of coaching style he responds to, or what, you know, what makes Jamin move. So maybe this kind of challenge or response in the media is something to get the fire lit under Jamin, you know?
Man, I can't rock with that, because at the end of the day, I understand what you're saying. I'm cool with that behind the scenes. But in the media, this is your first round pick from last year who's already been getting beat up from the media because he wasn't even playing snaps for real during majority of the season. So then to put him on blast, like, in this manner, I just didn't agree with that. I just felt like he simply could have answered the question and been like, you know, we got to put Jamin and Cole in better positions to, not be in those type of mismatches and keep it moving. You feel me? Jamin hasn't produced or looked like a first round pick. So the fan base is already on him. The media pundits have been on him crazy. So going into week 2, it's an early season. You know, I have no clue what Jamin is going to be overall.
Well, let's see how he responds. That's going to be the big thing. How does he respond to this?
But they did this to him last year as well in the media.
They protected him last. I thought they protected him last year a lot. I didn't see the call outs and all of that too much last year.
I don't remember exactly, but I know that we definitely discussed how, like, there were a couple of times that they threw him under the bus as well last year. And then maybe like towards the last 2 games, they try to like make it seem like he was making some plays. And even in the offseason, they went back and looked at the tape and they spoke highly of him in some aspects. But, you know, that's just my issue. At the end of the day, I feel like the linebacker corps overall is an issue, and they have not taken enough, you know, of that, not credit, but they haven't taken a lot of the blame as they should for not getting this right and not even trying to improve it in the offseason. Because if you feel like how you say in the media, just imagine what it's like behind closed doors, how he feels about how Jamin is playing. But you the motherfuckers that put him out there to be in those positions. Like, so what is your answer? Are you just going to let this ride out for the rest of the year as long as he's healthy? Or do you have a solution? Because David Mayo can't do it and John Boston can't do it. So where's the solution there?
I think even though I know it's not a high bar or anything, but I do think there's a guy on the roster right now that probably can do a little bit more than Jamin, but they're just not ready to, you know, admit that Jamin was mistaken. That's Milo Eifler. I do think Milo Eifler probably can step right into that Jamin role and maybe even give you more production. I mean, he's that, you know, he's a sideline to sideline type of guy. You know, he has the range, and I think he plays more instinctively than Jamin, but still, you just can't give up on Jamin so early. And we just have to see how he responds to coach him. I mean, if he comes out and Jamin plays the game of his life this week, a lot of us are going to sit back and look back and say, man, you know, that call out actually worked. But then if he doesn't, then you could probably sit back and say, man, that's just not that's not the style that works for him, and nothing's going to work, and you shouldn't even pile on to him at this point.
Yeah. I mean, Milo's my guy, but I can't really speak to say if he could fill it in. I hope he can, just being personal friends. But at the end of the day, I feel like Jamin's in another bad situation this week with a premium slot receiver for this particular offense where he is going to get torched. Like, when you watch the tape, his feet are just stopping. So you can't defend somebody that's already running at you full speed and your feet are stopped. So you're going to lose those matchups, and it's going to continue. So what happens after week 2 is what I'm puzzled about, because week 3, A.J. Brown is going to be in that slot.
I guess for me, to put a lid on the conversation with Jack and Jamin, I think it's so many different layers, and I think both of you all made good points. You know, I figured it's probably best if you all say everything, because I don't have anything else to say outside of the fact that when it comes to Jamin, I think it's just layers, because we don't know the relationship between Jamin Davis and Jack Del Rio. Like, I think of like what it took for Jack to even say it in the media, and meaning like how disappointed was he really in a guy that he probably really believed in, like he was probably really proud of in terms of how he come along, and what he saw in week 1. Again, I don't even know the question, and I still haven't pulled up the transcript, which I should have by this point. I don't know what the question exactly was and how Jamin Davis played a role in it, but we just don't know the context of what the relationship was. And obviously, from a standpoint of actually saying it, I understand AJ's point and why he disagrees with it. I also understand where Dre's coming from. See, Money said in the chat, Jamin got to play better though. AJ, I was disappointed. Jamin was talking about playing Jamin Davis football. Let's see it on the field. Is all Jack saying. We can't baby Jamin anymore. We did that last year. Big year 3 for Ron Rivera. We're not going to get to 11 wins. The players not being held to a higher standard. And to that point, though, you got to be careful with that higher standard thing. See, Money, that's the only thing I would say, is because if we keep it like that, we got to look at some of the biggest positions on this roster. And some of the biggest positions on this roster start with the offense, and obviously starts with the quarterback too. And we don't want to do that from a media standpoint and things like that. So I do understand. But as we look to the matchups, fellas, some keys for Washington to get a dub in Detroit this week. Where are y'all at? What's going to be important for you all?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to, back my guy Dre from last episode, you got to stack that box, man. You got to force Jared Goff to beat you. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Deandre Swift is a premium running back in this league. A lot of people just aren't exposed to him because he plays Detroit. But he's a top tier running back in my eyes. He can do everything. You don't want that guy to start getting rolling, and I'm just curious to see how they do the rotation this week. So that's the main concern, is just stopping the run game. I'm not really concerned about the pass game as much, because it is Jared Goff, even though when you look back at that Philadelphia game that they played last week, they did have a lot of guys that were open and had opportunities, but there were drop passes. There were, offensive penalties that brought plays back. There were some guys that definitely got open: Hockenson, Brown, Chalk. Some of them can make plays, some of them couldn't. So for me, I think the number one concern is stopping the run. Defensively, I felt like their front four was very aggressive, but overall, I think that Washington can make some plays against their defense. It's just, if you don't stop the run, it's going to be a long-ass day. That's it.
Yeah, for me, I guess I'll start with defensively. I actually like what C Money just said too. As far as if Cam Curl's playing this week, I'm putting Cam Curl at the Buffalo nickel and playing Derek Forrest at the safety spot that he played last week. I thought Derek Forrest was very efficient at that spot last week. And I also thought Cam Curl played good at the Buffalo nickel spot last year when he was forced to play there when you were playing Landon Collins back in the safety spot. So, I mean, that's one of the keys on defense. Keep both of those guys on the field. And it's funny, we were talking about Jamin Davis. It's possible you might see less of Jamin Davis this week if they're going to run. If Cam Curl is healthy and he's going to run, you'll probably see a lot more Cam Curl on the field with Derek Forrest, because last week it was Percy Butler, I think, playing the Buffalo nickel position. He played that quite a few from what I had seen on those nickel packages. So that's one of the keys that I have on defense. Like AJ said, I would definitely stack the box, make Jared Goff beat you. The issue is you got to worry about Deandre Swift coming out of the backfield, catching passes. I think he's a hell of a threat as a receiving back. So you definitely want to key in on that on defense. But at the end of the day, like I said, you want Jared Goff to beat you. As far as offensively, I do think this is a game where our playmakers can show off again. We may not see so much of a deep passing attack, as I do think Detroit's defensive line can be very disruptive. That's something I noticed against the Eagles. It was an issue for them last year as far as pass rushing and getting to the quarterback. But in that week 1 game, I mean, if they weren't playing Jalen Hurts, they may have gotten quite a few sacks in that game. But Jalen Hurts can make plays with his feet, so Detroit couldn't get there. But they were very disruptive, so that's an issue. So that's something where I expect a quick, short passing game this week. Get the ball out of Wentz's hands very quickly. Get the ball into your playmakers' hands, Curtis Samuels. And the biggest thing, too, that I noticed with Detroit, that Washington can attack them on this side of the football, Detroit misses a lot of tackles. That was an issue for them last year. They missed 10 tackles in a game against the Eagles this week. So guys like Curtis Samuel, J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, they can make plays in this game because Detroit isn't a strong tackling team. So get the ball in your playmakers' hands on offense. Get the ball out of Carson Wentz's hands quickly. Let him make quick decisions. And that's how you can win this game.
Yeah, for me, fellas, third downs is going to be important. Obviously, we know that, you mentioned it's an aggressive defense for Detroit, but, Detroit defense against the Philadelphia Eagles, they blitzed 49% of the time versus Philly, but only had a 28% pressure rate. So that was 22nd in the NFL in terms of pressure rating. That the average was, I think, probably like closer to 40, and they were well below the average. And then obviously another thing behind that pressure, Detroit rushed 5 or more players 68% of the time with press coverage behind it. So I think for Washington, understanding that you are going to see a lot of pressure with Detroit, you're going to see an aggressive defense, and on third downs, you're going to see primarily cover 1, cover 0 situations from disguised looks and things like that. It's going to be important for Washington to really win certain matchups. Clearly, Jahan Dotson and I think Terry McLaurin is going to have opportunities to win off the line of scrimmage and win very quickly, but they're going to have to eat. You gotta help Carson Wentz out, because this is probably one of those situations where the pressure from Detroit, they had 2 good pass rushers in Jacksonville, but they didn't disguise as well as Detroit did. I liked how Detroit was able to line these guys up, and similar to Carolina. I watched a lot of Carolina last year, and they do it this year too. I think they have the same defensive coordinator. But they do a lot of disguises and a lot of road coverages and things like that. And Detroit does some things similar as well, but they more so play man, whereas Carolina plays zone in their road coverage and disguise coverages. So for Washington, again, like I said, you got to get your guys on the perimeter to win quickly and win often, to kind of ease up in terms of the aggressive looks from Detroit. And then offensively, for Detroit's offense, the run game, the trenches is going to be important. Washington, where is the numbers at? Washington had, where is that number? Detroit. Oh, there you go. Detroit, Deandre Swift, we talked about him, but from a rush game standpoint, his biggest rushes came on 5 carries, and 4 of those 5 were on trap plays and counter plays, gap scheme runs. So if they can get Washington's defensive linemen out of position while climbing to the second level, obviously that's going to be a win for them at all times, especially with a running back like Deandre Swift. I just think it's important for those guys to read their keys and understand that being consistent in that and not falling for any cheese is going to be important. Like, it's going to be important this week more than last week, obviously, to an extent. But that's the thing in the run game. And then lastly, we talked about Jared Goff and forcing Jared Goff to, pass the ball for them and making sure you load the box. But I think the biggest thing is you have to continue to get pressure on Goff. Malcolm alluded to it earlier when we talked to Malcolm about how he's able to, or not how he's able to, but how his decision making and his ability to make good decisions is reduced with pressure. Sometimes, obviously quarterbacks are affected by pressure. They're naturally affected by pressure. But when it comes to decision making, sometimes it becomes more irrational. And Jared Goff's decision making becomes cloudy when he senses pressure. Like the ball is out, he's just trying to get rid of it. You have to force him into poor throws and get some of those opportunities. Some of those poor throws, one of them led to an interception, and then another one was an almost interception. So he was sub 50% on his completion percentage. The ones that I charted, the pressures that I charted, he was sub 50%. So if you can get these pressures and create these one or two opportunities to get another possession for your offense, then you're in good shape, fellas. So it really comes down to pressure, understanding your assignments, your gap assignments, and making sure that you read your keys defensively from the front seven. And then offensively, you need these playmakers to win because Detroit's going to send the pressure. And I'm not entirely too sure that Washington offensive line is going to be able to hold up unless they max protect. But I don't think they're going to be able to hold up. So you're going to have to win from the perimeter side and force these guys to back off a little bit. All right. Roy mentioned who's the LB's coach. May need to take a good look at that. I'm about to be the LB's coach. They called me for an interview the other day, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that call and see if I can make that career change.
Steve Russ is the Commanders.
I wonder why fans put so much on positional coaches. Like it's the coordinators, it's not the positional coach as much. Unless you hear a player come out and openly say like my position coach is shit, pretty much. It's hard for a fan to really put that on a positional coach, in my opinion.
I don't know. I get it, but these guys, like that Sam Mills thing was like that was a brewing situation for a long time. And I don't think like understanding that one, like I've always said, like Ron Rivera made that call in terms of firing him, but I don't think if he had ultimate autonomy, he didn't have to get rid of Sam Mills, I don't think he would have done it. Like if it was up to him. So it really came down to the player or a coordinator to your point. So I don't know who it was, but just hearing that, I think that the positions coach can sometimes be looked at like nobody even talks about the secondary guy. I don't understand that. Like the communication thing, like that defense altogether has. I'm not saying everybody is terrible, right? I'm just saying if we're so focused on like everybody's just automatically and blindly says Chris Harris should be elevated to defensive coordinator, right? And I'm not saying that that's a right decision or a wrong decision, but I'm saying when you're talking about a defense who is struggling on all three levels at one point last year, this year it just started, but at one point last year they were struggling on all three levels. How can we just sit here and say that Chris Harris should be elevated to defensive coordinator? Like nobody really knows, and that's a position coach, but we just don't know exactly what's really going on. So that's kind of where I'm at with position coach.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that just boils down. I know for me, like I can speak on Chris and his relationship with the guys. That's just from a personality standpoint. As far as the X and O standpoint, you just passing along what's given to you from your coordinator, man. If your offensive coordinator say he wants something look a certain way, or your D coordinator say he want the guys to do something a certain way, that's all you can do. So it's kind of like you tied at the hand. With the Sam Mills situation, it sounded like it was more so a personality clash more than X and O's, because at the end of the day, like you said, Mual, like Sam Mills is not new to working with Ron Rivera. So this is somebody that has been around Ron for a long time before coming to Washington. It's just that motherfuckers just ain't rock with him. They just ain't care for him personality-wise, and the way he conveyed the messaging from Jack Del Rio to them just wasn't meshing up. So, but I mean, either way, at the end of the day, I think we got ourselves a good matchup this weekend. Hopefully,
final scores and MVP too.
I'm gonna let y'all go first.
All right, I'll go first right quick. I'll knock mine out. What's going on, Hawk? What's going on, Roger? Appreciate y'all checking in. I'll go score. I think this is a tricky game, but I'm gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna go Washington. Even though I'm scared as hell with the defense in the secondary, but I'm gonna go Washington. I'm gonna go 33-27.
Hey man, I need to go back.
Oh,
and look
MVP.
at
My
prediction.
bad. MVP.
Oh, yes,
I'm
but
gonna just
yeah,
say. I'm gonna
yeah.
say Jahan. I'm gonna say Jahan Dotson.
Ooh, okay. I like that. I need to go back, like I said, and listen to last week's show to see what my prediction was. I mean, I know I was right because I know I picked us, but I don't remember who I said was going to be the MVP or what the score was. So, but this week, I'm gonna go with MVP in this game. I think it's going to be. I'm gonna go with Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin is going to have a big game. He didn't get targeted a lot. Me and AJ talked about that earlier on Twitter, and I had a discussion with quite a few people on Twitter who was kind of upset about that. But now I'll go with Terry McLaurin. I think he's going to have a big game this week. I think Carson's going to hit him a couple of times. Maybe he'll get 2 touchdowns. Jahan got 2 touchdowns in the first game. I'm going with Terry this week offensively, and I think that's where you win. I think that's where you win this game. I think offensively we have to attack Detroit just like Philadelphia did. Philadelphia won the game on the offensive side of the football against Detroit. I think you have to attack that defense. So my final score prediction, I'm going with a 31-23 win, Washington.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to say a positional group will be MVP and also a player. I will go with the wide receiver group. I think you get an opportunity to see these guys utilize their attributes of their speed and elusiveness to make plays on that turf in Detroit. I think that Washington will get the ball in the hands of Terry early and often, more so than last week. And allow those boys, Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel, to get creative against Detroit. Then also, I see Deron Payne playing being a big time component in this week's game, stopping the run and also, having some bat downs and possibly popping one up in the air and getting the pick himself. That's my prediction. As far as the MVP aspect, and then score wise, I think it'll be 27-17. Detroit. I mean, not Detroit, but 27-17 Washington.
AJ got us with the 2-0 start. But hold on, hey, Jamal, before you go, I want to say to my boys, Hawk and Roger in the chat, man, where y'all was at, man? Y'all was late tonight, man. We need y'all to be on time. Y'all the usuals, man. We be looking for y'all, especially my man Hawk, man. Hawk always with us. Roger, too. You know what I'm saying? I be seeing Roger, you know what I'm saying? Y'all was late tonight, man. Y'all got to get on time next time.
But nah, we do appreciate everybody checking, especially C Money, man, for getting active in the chat, man. But as always, dude, we do appreciate everybody checking in, watching, viewing, watching a replay, catching up, just showing some love all together, man. It's truly appreciate it. But fellas, man, enjoy y'all night, enjoy y'all weekend, and we'll catch up after this goddamn game on Sunday, man. See if these boys can get off to that 2-0 start, or if Detroit can even the score, make it 1-1 for both themselves and for Washington. Yes, but yeah, man, y'all be safe. Enjoy y'all evening, enjoy y'all night, enjoy y'all morning, whenever y'all watching, all that good stuff. Peace.
I appreciate it.